This is Never Down, Never Out with T.R. Matson. This podcast is about discipline when motivation fades, resilience when things get hard, and showing up when quitting would be easier. No hype, no shortcuts, just the mindset required to build something real. One day at a time. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Never Down, Never Out podcast. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully the format of what I'm doing is resonating with some people. If there's things that, suggestions you have and things like that, please put them in the comments. Let's try to keep it positive in the comments. If there's something negative, my kids are too loud in the background or the audio is not good or something like that, just shoot me a message on Instagram or my email. You can go on my website, trmatson.com, and you can message me there, just so we keep positivity on the internet. But if you have something to say that you don't like about the podcast, hey, it's a free world. Make the comment. But I'm really trying to work and get it better, and I only get better with the feedback. As they say in my other job, you're only as good as your last landing. So we got to keep working on this. I want this message to resonate in as many people as possible. I want 2026 to be a year where we turn the corner on positivity and we start getting back to ourselves. So to do that, I need the feedback, and I appreciate the feedback. So as we talk through the foundations of mental toughness that we're getting through, episode 17. If you've been with me the whole time, I appreciate it. If you're just finding me now, again, they're short. The format is by design, digestible short topics that build on each other. That's not to say that you have to start at the beginning. I'm hoping that the titles will help if there's a particular area you're trying to focus on in your life. But if you're just finding me and you feel lost, hey, go back to episode 1 and just start listening, and maybe it will help build that foundation. But today's topic is I thought about this for a long time. And in order to talk about what I really want to talk about on this topic, taking responsibility for your life, I have to make myself vulnerable and tell a story that, to the best of my knowledge, I've never told before on a podcast. It's a story that is very personal. It's a story that is certainly going to make me vulnerable to the masses. But in my mind, it's the only way to really show what happens when you take responsibility for your life. So as a recap, didn't do so well my first year of college, ended up transferring down to Texas A&M after working very hard my second semester of my freshman year to get the grades to be allowed to transfer. And I had gotten down to A&M, and it was very different. I mean, growing up in the Northeast and going down to A&M, anybody who's been to those two places in the country, it's a different culture, but I liked it immediately. Not to say that I don't like the Northeast. I love the Northeast, but I really did love the Texas culture, and specifically the Texas A&M culture. I remember vividly the first time somebody yelled howdy at me. I thought the place was a little bizarre, but it's one of those situations, as they've often said, you don't understand it until you're on the inside. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Texas A&M. But early on, my second freshman year, as I like to put it, I was looking for something. And if you remember, I spoke earlier, I went to a military-based high school. It was a Navy-based, a junior ROTC program for the Navy. So when I started looking for my place, I gravitated to the Corps Cadets and the ROTC unit specifically. Now, I went because I was a marine science major at the time in Pennsylvania. While I spoke to the main campus, they recommended that the Galveston campus was a smarter play, and there was a lot of benefits later on that happened for that. And it's, I was very proud that it's still part of the Texas A&M system, and it's the same diploma and the same ring, and we went to the football games and all the same traditions. But now I'm down on the Galveston campus, and I'm searching for my place. I'm very far away from home, the furthest I've been away from home my whole life up to this point. And I'm searching for my place. And naturally, I gravitated to the Corps Cadets and ROTC unit. And one day, I walked in, and I'll never forget, the campus has grown quite a bit, but it was two single-wide trailers on this campus. One was the offices for the ROTC unit, and the other was kind of the supply for the ROTC unit. And there was this, concrete pathway between the two. I will never forget this moment in my time. It was so pivotal. So, and again, bear with me. I'm opening up the vulnerability chest here. So I walk into this office, and the office is there's 5 individuals that run the ROTC unit at the time at Texas A&M at Galveston. 2 Navy lieutenants, active duty, that were on their short tour. 1 chief petty officer, who was an old school chief petty officer. And I come to find out later he was, I believe he was either a Teams guy, a SEAL, or small boat unit, or worked with them. He just had that persona. He was a hard individual, but he was an old school chief petty officer. Anybody who's been in the military or in the Navy or heard stories about the Navy, when I say he's an old school chief petty officer, he was an old school chief petty officer. Coming up, I would imagine he spoke with his fists more than his mouth. And now here he is in charge of a bunch of delinquent 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds at a ROTC unit. But hey, that's where he was in his career, and I learned so much from that chief, and I honestly wish I could reach out to him and tell him how much he shaped my life. But I'll get to that in a second. And then there were 2 civilians, and they ran this ROTC unit. And I walk in, and I introduce myself, and I say that I'm interested in joining the ROTC program. And naturally, because it's a very small trailer, the lieutenant in charge comes around the corner. He hears me, and he's very polite, and explained to me what was involved and how at A&M you wear a uniform, to all your classes, and you'd be required to do other things. And after your sophomore year, you have to have a scholarship or else you can't continue on, and all this stuff. And frankly, it was probably more information than I needed at the time, but he was doing his job. And the other lieutenant came out as well, and the chief was just kind of sitting over on the side. I remember that. And we had probably a 10 to 15 minute, mostly one-way conversation. They never asked me what I wanted to do in the Navy. They never asked me what my plans are. They were just basically pitching the unit and explaining to me what day-to-day life would be and how it would be different than a normal college student. Because the ROTC unit fell under the A&M at Galveston Corps Cadets, which fell under the A&M Corps Cadets, and all this. And they were explaining. Some of this made sense to me, and a lot of it didn't, because it was just a lot. And the lieutenant ended the conversation with, "Why don't you think about it and come back in a few days and let us know?" So far, nothing abnormal about this story, right? Let me paint you a picture of who I was. I was 19 years old. I was 6'2", and I was over 300 pounds. Over 300 pounds of what I like to joke was 95% relaxed muscle. I was fat. I walked into the Texas A&M ROTC unit office, a 19-year-old, frankly, fat slob. And I know what you're going to say. Hey, don't say that. It's okay. No, I was fat. I didn't look professional. I frankly couldn't pass any of the physical fitness requirements or height, weight, body fat requirements to be in the military at that moment. There was nothing from my physical looks that would tell this lieutenant that I was going to have any chance of success in his ROTC unit, let alone in the Navy. But I didn't realize it at the time. And I thanked them all, and I turned around and I walked out. And right before I closed the door to this trailer, I heard the lieutenant start laughing. He was laughing at me. And as the door closed, I heard him laugh and say to the other lieutenant, "There's no way that fat slob walks back into this office." And I told you there was a concrete path in between these two buildings. It was off on one side of the campus, and I walked down this path. And I've never at that point in my life had felt so alone. I wanted more than anything to just be back home with my parents. To me, I was on an island all by myself. And I leaned up against the trailer and I started to cry. Real world sobbing tears. Because I had walked into that trailer with hope. I was looking for something. And I walked out with the realization that there was no way I could do it. There was no way. He was right. It was the first real look at myself that I had had in a very long time, if ever. And I leaned up against that trailer and I cried alone for what felt like an eternity. And then the door opened. And the chief petty officer walked out. Now, when I say he was an old school chief petty officer, I laugh now looking back. He was the kind of chief petty officer that had the mustache that was amazing, but was never in Navy regs. His gig line of his shirt and his pants and his belt was always off and untucked. But he was a mountain of a man. Even to me, even at 6'2", 300 plus pounds, I felt like his persona dwarfed me. He was solid muscle. And he saw me. And he shut the door and he walked down and I wiped my tears and I tried to gain my composure. And he walked right up to me and he looked at me. And he always had a way of speaking where he never had to raise his voice. But it always felt like his words were booming at you. And he didn't ask me what was wrong. He didn't ask me what I was doing. The first words out of that chief's mouth were, "You heard the lieutenant, huh?" I said, "Yeah." And he paused and he goes, "Who's he?" "Excuse me?" He goes, "Who's he?" Why does his opinion of you matter so much that it's brought you to this point where you're in tears alone against this wall, broken? He goes, "You've talked to him for 15 minutes. He could be the worst individual in the world for all you know. He could be the most broken, screwed up, bad person that you've ever met in your life. Yet you're letting it affect you to this level." And he goes, "You want to join my Navy?" And I said, "Yes, Chief, I think so." He goes, "It's not what I asked. You either do or you don't. And you answer that question right here, right now. "Do you want to join my Navy, son?" And I said, "Yes, Chief." And he goes, "Then I suggest you take responsibility for your own life right here." He goes, "You're fat. So what? Lose weight." He goes, "You're going to be slow. You're not going to be strong. Who cares? Get faster, get stronger." He goes, "If you tell me right now you want to join my Navy, I will work out with you every morning until you pass every test you need. But you have to take responsibility of your life. I can't come to your room and wake you up. I can't drag you to the gym. I can't make you go study. Only you can do that." He goes, "So you have a choice right now, and that's you either have a pity party and keep blaming others, or you take responsibility for your actions, realize you're the only one who put the Twinkies and Ho-Hos in your mouth, put them down, get to the gym, let's get it done." Now, we talked early on in this section about motivation and discipline. That chief petty officer was giving me a lot of motivation. But I had to take responsibility for my life to build the discipline that it was going to take to achieve this goal. Nobody else. Nobody was coming to save me. He'd help. He'd be there. He'd show me how to exercise. He'd show me what to eat. But he wasn't going to feed me. He wasn't going to lift the weights. He wasn't going to run the miles. That was on me. And I walked back in with him, and I signed up that day, that moment. My sophomore year at Texas A&M, not only did I come back, I was requested by the Corps Cadets to be in charge of the summer before school starts new cadet physical fitness program. I went from being a fat slob getting laughed at to being the one they put in front of every cadet during physical fitness every morning for the summer program prior to starting school. How did that transformation happen? Because I stopped blaming others and I started realizing who was at fault. Where you sit today, if you can't take ownership of your life situations and you constantly say, "I'm not where I want to be because of them. I haven't achieved what I want because of this." And all of those things are pointed outward. I could tell you, you're never going to achieve your goals. But the second that you look at it and flip it and realize you're not where you want to be today because of you, you haven't achieved the things that haunt your mind because of you. Once you flip that switch, possibilities are endless. I hope this story and the vulnerability it took to tell it resonates with you. I hope I hope it is the moment that flips the switch. But remember, the story is only the motivation. You are the one that need to build the discipline. But you can, and I'm Thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk soon. If this episode helped you, don't just listen, apply it. Progress is built in what you do after the message ends. Remember, never down, never out. I'll see you tomorrow.